Hi, this is Mimi.
And this is Lee. In this episode of Beyond Dieting, we talk about your fear of regaining weight, something we hear all the time from clients. And I understand this on a personal level, the fear of regaining weight. It's big. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think before we jump into the regaining the weight part, which is really what we're going to talk about, let's talk about the idea of what fear is and really define fear. So I think I got my definition from Merriam-Webster. I'm not really sure, but fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous and likely to cause pain or be a threat. So I think when you think of the idea of living in fear of regaining weight, it's not a pleasant feeling. It's who wants to live with that? And you end up kind of armoring up all the time against this threat. And in here, the threat is regaining. So it's you're living your life with this armor and fear that regaining is getting ready to swoop in and ruin your life. Here I am. I've gotten skinny. I've gotten healthy. I feel in this really good place. But there's this what are they called in Harry Potter? The demonic things that swoop around.
It'll come to me. It'll come
Dementors.
to me.
Dementor. Regain is this Dementor that's swirling around, just waiting to come in and knock you off this really good, safe place that you feel you've gotten to with the weight that you've lost. And that's, to me, it's just a really unhealthy and unpleasant way to live.
Yeah, living in fear not only is in your mind, but it causes all the stuff in your body to happen. Because when you're fearful, you're on a cellular, very small microscopic level, all the stuff that's working together in your body thinks that it needs to do certain things to respond to that fear. So you end up with elevated cortisol, and that's called, it's like a stress hormone. It's linked to weight gain and weight retention. So living in fear not only feels unpleasant, but it does unpleasant things with your body chemistry over time. If you're not really in danger, you don't really have a dangerous threat, but you're living as though, then it's just not good for you on all levels. So this fear, definitely, I recognize it. It has been a big one for me in the past. And I can look back and see that it was indeed a self-fulfilling prophecy for me as well. And scientific study backs this up. It was only when I opened myself up to the hope that I could lose and keep it off that I actually was able to. I not just physically lost weight, but my mind was able to operate in a different way because I had hope. And this fear was not as pervasive. I had tools to work with that fear and not, it didn't drive the car, so to speak. I got a different part of my brain to drive the car instead of just this fear all the time. And again, like I said, this losing weight and keeping the weight off, it doesn't happen magically, but what happened for me is I committed myself to learning what was backed by years of scientific, psychological, and medical research, and applied myself to that. But first I had to shift my focus and energy towards hope and away from fear. That allowed me to then go do this kind of work for myself, customize some stuff that worked for me.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that the nature of thinking is that it never goes away. Your thoughts may not ever fully go away, but you learn how to cope with them and react to them differently so that you behave differently. Because even now, even though I can get rid of this, so I can kind of put it on the sidelines and it doesn't drive my life, it can still show up and kind of swim through like an 8-foot-long alligator waiting to pounce. But now, the moment I notice this fearful thought that says, what if I fail and gain the weight back? I have an arsenal of self-help mindset tools to send that gator back to the Everglades where it belongs.
Yeah. I love that idea of the alligator is the fearful thought, because it's something that you fear, right? But it's kind of underneath the surface. You can't really see it, and it's there. So what I was just going to say was, what what you're focused on, like where all you put your energy, that's what you make real. So if you sit around thinking like, oh, I'm going to regain this weight, I'm going to regain this weight, like subconsciously, you are actually encouraging your brain to help you figure out how to regain the weight,
Mhm.
which is like, it's the opposite that you want to happen, instead of focusing on like, I'm doing great, I'm keeping the weight off, and really like trying to tell your brain, like, what I want you to do is help me keep this happening. One, it lowers your cortisol right away, as opposed to thinking like, I'm going to regain the weight, instead of like, I can figure out how I can maintain this weight loss. So it's like, you hear that phrase all the time, what you focus on grows, or what you focus on becomes real. I mean, it's the whole idea of manifesting and the law of attraction, right? It's like, that's like where you put your attention is what you're doing. So I think your thoughts are there. Your thought's going to pop up. You can't control the thought. Like it shows up, but you control like how you react to it. So when that alligator comes swimming through, with all of the damage and negative thought that it's want, you can learn to just say, like, nope, 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 and turn it away. And you learn the tools that help you do that.
Right. Yeah. You call in your version of Crocodile Dundee or whatever, alligator or a crocodile. But yeah, so our Crocodile Dundee is a mindset tool that you can use. And we teach this in our bariatric masterclass. Some of you may have attended that. It's a tool that we use in our programs. This is kind of a quickie version of a longer mindset process that we also teach. That's a little more, it's good to go as deep as you can. I just want to say with mindset, it's good to go as deep as you can and really learn how to do it from a bunch of different standpoints. But this one's a kind of quick and easy, I would say. So it's called LIFT. And this is an acronym that stands for L, lower your cortisol, which Mimi mentioned. I, investigate your thoughts. F, feel your emotions. And T, think a slightly better thought.
Yeah. And I think that's important. We're going to walk you through an example, but that like thinking a slightly better thought, it's like, because it has to be a thought that you actually are going to believe. So if it's like about weight regain and you want your slightly better thought to be, I will never regain another pound in my life, like that might be real hard to take a big grasp on and believe, just because weight fluctuates and never is a long time. And so it's like you just are trying to shift to that slightly better thought.
Exactly. So it would look something like this if you applied this process to your fears around weight regain. And we're just going to do a quick example here. This is something we would spend a lot of time with you on in our programs, but it's hard to do in just a short podcast. But here's kind of how it looks. So L, lower your cortisol. This is a stress hormone that's been linked to weight gain and weight retention. So you want to, before you can do anything when you're in a kind of a fear-based thought, is you've got to calm yourself down and calm your central nervous system down a little bit so that you can start to do something else. So first you got to calm yourself. So try what we call square breathing. This is a tool that's out there. We didn't, invent this tool, but we use it a lot with our students. Square breathing, do some square breathing exercises to soothe your nervous system. And it just takes a minute. Mimi, do you want to kind of run through what a square breath?
Yeah, it's square breathing or box breathing. I know you're on a podcast, but if you think of like a square and you're going to inhale on one side of the square to the count of 4, hold across the top of the square for a count of 4, exhale going down the other side of the square for a count of 4, and then hold that exhale for a count of 4. And so you kind of close the box. If you're on YouTube, you can see my finger making a box, but if not, it's like the idea of like, inhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4. You would do it slowly to the count of 4 and then hold that exhale 2, 3, 4. So it's just, there are a lot of breathing techniques. A lot of people just like 10 really slow, deep breaths in and out, breathe in and then another gasp with air is another great one. Like there are a lot of breathing techniques, but whatever you can do to really calm your central nervous system.
Yeah, something healthy that calms, your nervous system, that's been shown to definitely do it. Then next, you would notice the exact phrase, the way you're thinking it, and write it down. And writing it down is very important. Sometimes you're just in the car and you're trying to do this quickly and you can't write it down, but when you can, it's going to serve you long term if you start writing some of the stuff down to get the exact language, and you'll notice it more when you do that. So every time it creeps up like an alligator, you're more likely to recognize it because you've drawn the shape of the alligator in the form of words and forming your thought. So notice the exact phrase, write it down. And in this case, the thought is, I won't be able to keep the weight off. That's the thought we're working with. So next, you would notice when you say that to yourself a few times, I won't be able to keep the weight off. I won't be able to, I can't keep the weight off. Say it a few times. What emotions, what does it do to you to keep saying that to yourself? And notice the emotion. You can notice sometimes like physical sensations in your body, but what's the emotion underneath that thought? Sadness, hopelessness, anger, possibly at yourself, anger at the world. What pops up for you? It may be a whole mixture of emotions, but see if you can just kind of connect to them so you understand the emotions that go with that thought. Then the final step would be play around with that slightly better thought, like something like, I am committed to learning how to keep this weight off and putting my knowledge into practice. That's a long sentence, but maybe is there anything else that occurs to you as a better thought, slightly better?
I think that's good. I just want to back up to the step 3, which was F, which is feel your emotions. It's like you definitely want to notice it, like if it's sadness, hopelessness, or anger, but I think you also want to sit in a moment and really feel it, like really acknowledge that emotion is there, because if you try to suppress it or ignore it, it's going to come out in whatever manner that you prefer to buffer your feelings away, because those emotions are there. I think that's a really key. Like,
Yeah.
We've been raised to really fear our emotions, to feel being like it's wrong to be sad when you're sad. Like you can't show your anger if you're anger, but I think find, a place and a time to really feel that. Whatever that, if their thought is, I won't be able to keep the weight off, and that makes you just feel totally hopeless, just kind of sit with that hopelessness and let yourself feel it.
Yeah.
But I like that better thought. I'm committed to learning how. Or like I'm willing to learn how, or we just did a podcast on using the word figure outable, that you can figure it out. It's like, I can figure out how to keep this weight off and put my knowledge into practice.
And also I would just say a tendency we all have, and you may have this tendency too if you're listening, is that when you notice you're thinking a negative thought and then you learn, oh my God, this thought has actually been proven to cause problems for me. There's this funny thing we do. It's not really funny, haha, but this interesting thing we do where we get mad at ourselves for thinking the thought, because we're like, why am I thinking that thought? I'm so broken. I just think negative thoughts. Now I'm really pissed with myself because I think negative thoughts. Don't be hard on yourself. This is something that is very common. And you're not a bad person for having the occasional negative thought. This is just a tool and kind of your reminder to start noticing that you're having the thoughts, and then knowing that you have control over what you choose to think, so that thought may seem like it came in uninvited, but then you have the power to choose what to think. That thought can just keep swimming on by and go somewhere else. You don't have to attach to it. You don't have to let it attach to you. You can think what you want to think.
Yeah. And I think that's why for us, the I is investigate your thoughts, like, be curious about it, think about it, investigating. It's not believe your thoughts, attached to that thought. It really is like investigate.
Yeah. And we don't say get rid of the thought either, because you can't altogether, but you can diminish its power over you and decide what thought you want to go with.
Yeah, because regaining, it is a fear that can be debilitating. It is a fear that can keep you from action. And if you have a history of like gaining weight and losing weight and gaining weight and losing weight, like for me, it's like, oh, I can believe that fear is real because I have this history that's showing me that when I lose weight, I regain weight and I lose weight. but it wasn't until I decided that I'm just not going to believe that when I lose weight, that it's going to automatically come off. It's going to come back. I'm going to choose to believe that when I lose weight, I can keep it off and I can keep losing. And so, that really has helped me, kind of turn the corner and start to be way more successful in hitting all of the goals I want, but especially weight loss goals.
I love that, Mimi, so much.
Yeah. We like to hold on to the idea that our history is predicting what our future is going to be. And it's not. We get to decide that every day. Like that thinking a slightly better thought. We get to decide every day what our thoughts and reactions are going to be.
Yeah.
I think it's very freeing. I think that's a really hopeful idea to kind of latch on to.
Definitely. So, and this is what we work on in our programs, with our clients and students. We work on taking the teeth out of those scary thoughts and then shifting your thoughts to thoughts that are more likely to create success for you. And when you shift those thoughts, your actions, your behaviors start to change. The way you feel changes. So it's amazing how powerful a thought can be. And it's just really good for you to know that you do have control over your thoughts. Now, for some reason, we have not good enough screens on our windows. Thoughts can come in uninvited, but you can just let them just keep going. You thought right there, you negative thought, you just keep going. I'm not going to attach to you, and I'm going to choose to think this other thing that I know will serve me better.
Yeah, because fears don't always serve you. Unless you actually are in the swamp surrounded by alligators, like you don't need those thoughts and those fears to be running your life.
Right.
It's time that they just like take a back seat and you come up with better thoughts that are going to serve you. If it's not a thought that's keeping you out of imminent danger, let's think something different.
Yeah. And so we have our song. And so, because we like to end a podcast with a song that just kind of pops up in our head when we're thinking about the topic. Sometimes the songs are really uplifting and have these really uplifting lyrics. Sometimes it's just what popped into our brains because it just seems to match. I think today was one of those days. So, our topic is the fear of weight regain that so many people have. And it can shut you down sometimes and cause behaviors you don't actually want and don't get you the results. So the song that immediately came into my mind was For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield. This is way back in the 60s. But this song always sounded like it sounds like a song about fear to me. I think this is from my childhood. Just something, it has like this creepy kind of beginning. And the song is really about the culture clashes of the 60s. But if we're going to apply it to today, it's really in this case where you're releasing the fears that come from diet culture and a history of dieting. And getting out of this kind of clash with yourself, kind of this culture clash inside of you with the side of you that wants to be hopeful, that wants to take charge, that wants to get the results. But I like this song. It is a fun song.
It's a whole new cultural war against the diet and fitness.
Yes,
and
it's a revolution. Sort of.
So this has been good. Thanks for joining us on this podcast, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.